Hey everybody, this is Josh again. This is part 3. I'm going to call this series, well, I had a couple different ideas for it, but I call it the fear-based society, because this is really the point I wanted to get at by making those other 2 videos. I was kind of beating around the bush while I was trying to I collect my thoughts as I make the videos. I don't write down a list of ideas and then make a video. I've tried that before. It doesn't work. I like to just go with what my heart tells me. And the fear-based society is not something that can really be explained easily, but I think those in my way of thinking, those who have thought about these things a lot, understand what I'm talking about. But those who have thought a little deeper might understand that I'm not saying that people, or companies, or leaders are purposely feeding us our fears to control us, although some of them are. Many of them are. What it is to me is more of a subtle understanding of the way the human mind works. Now, there are advertising companies who have spent billions of dollars to understand how the human mind works in order to either put people in fear or make people desire something they don't really need. I know this is true. I know this is a way that companies market. They're not just fools. They don't just put out a dumb commercial without putting out research. But what I'm talking about is the more kind of sidelined type of fear, the one where a politician may state something that if we don't do A, then B will happen to us, and C is not an option. People are willing to listen because we assume that that leader has something that we don't, or knows something that we don't. And often that may be the case. I think this may be a big problem with trusting politicians, because we want to trust politicians. They're in office supposedly to support and help us. And there are people out there who support all the politicians on their team, but not on the other team. The whole red and blue thing. I mean, it's really ludicrous to a person who's studied politics at all. To a person who's done any type of research on political theory or understanding other politics of different cultures, you can see what's going on. But to the untrained eye, it appears like everything's just fine, that America is this superpower, and that we're protecting the world, yada, yada, yada. But understanding how fear is marketed to you will set you free. Now, the ultimate fear comes from death, and we know this. No matter how much you try to beat around the bush, it's always about death. It may be a suffering death, or you may fear somebody you love dying, or you may fear everyone dying, but mostly it's yourself. The fear of your own mortality. Now, let me give you a good example of what I'm talking about here with fear. A good way what's a better thing to make people fear than the very environment around them? It's polluted. It's dangerous. You're going to get radiation poisoning. You're going to be permanently damaged by barium, by phosphorus, by aluminum, by all these things that are in the environment. Humans are pretty resilient. When we overdo it, when we get exposed to a particular chemical or substance that's dangerous, it can cause sickness, illness, and death. And this is why we fear these things. So this would be the ultimate fear, is to fear the environment around us. To take it a step further, it would be to fear the food we're eating. So really think about that. Think about what people are telling you if they tell you food is bad, or this is bad, that's bad. The way I see it is if you look at organic food and the way that the big companies have been insulting the organic companies and saying that they're producing dangerous foods, that raw milk is dangerous. You can get sick. You can die from it. They are stopping farmers from producing these organic crops and selling raw milk. And one person may say they're protecting us. You know, they want to make sure that we're getting food that's healthy because in today's society, blah blah blah. Well, it's just bullshit. Another way of looking at it is to say, well, they don't want people. They don't want any of the small guys making the money. They want the big companies to make it all. So I don't think that's 100% true either. See, it's not so cut and dry. It's a little bit of both. What it is the big companies putting a suggestion into people's minds and into government's minds that this food could be dangerous and letting them do the work. So we get behind an idea that we believe someone tells us that is true, and then we get more and more voices behind that idea, and eventually we don't even know where we got the original information. At that point we're just screaming and shouting what we've been told and repeating things. How many times do you hear people repeat political ideas, you know? It's nothing new. It's the way that if one person can convince another that something is true and really get their heart into it, and that person can convince a few more, then when the one person who knows better walks into a group of 10 people who have been lied to, he's willing to take the lie too, because it's easier. It's easier than thinking for yourself. I've always been the outcast. I'm always the guy who thinks for myself and speaks out in a group of people. A good example might be if a Christian's sitting around, walks into a room and a bunch of atheists are, you know, talking about how God doesn't exist. That Christian is not likely to step up and, you know, defend his religion in front of 10 people who are opposed to it, because you know he'll get torn down. I'm not saying all Christians wouldn't defend their faith. I'm saying that in this particular point, you could see how a person might just say whatever, they're idiots. Vice versa, an atheist walks into a room full of Christians, and they're talking about Christ, and he really doesn't believe in any God, and he wants to speak his mind, but he figures, no, I'll just have to deal with these radical Christians. So there are times when we use our sense to say, hey, you know, it's not worth it here. Too many people believing one thing. But is that right or wrong? Does it really matter? It doesn't matter. We have different opinions. It's okay to express them. But when we get to the point where we fear expressing an idea out of ridicule, then we have to question that idea. Not question whether it's right or wrong, just question the implications, the significance of it. The biggest conflicts we have in the world are the most important. Personal conflicts, not conflicts as in war, but conflicts as in, you know, the personal battles that we wage against ourselves. You know, damn it, I got to quit eating. I'm eating too much. I'm getting fat. Or, man, I got to eat more. I'm getting too skinny. Or, you know, I have to stop using drugs. Or I have to find a way to get this done or get that done. It's all these little games we play with ourselves every day. And many of the conclusions we come about what's good and bad are based on fear, this fear-based society that we've created. And like I say, you know, I can keep coming back to it. The fear ultimately comes down to death, and nobody wants to die. So you can see how the fear of death has driven society for so long, and why we had to create religions in order to understand it deeper. Merely by saying that gods are in the sky and that they created humanity didn't work for people. People want to know the details. So today we have irreducible complexities everywhere around us. 1,000 years ago, you know, people could derive a conclusion about what life was about and what was good and what was bad, and they could stick with that because their only immediate influence was the environment around them, to which they had a large degree of influence on themselves. So they were able to cater their environment to what worked for them, and this is how cultures could last for so long. If somebody invaded, you know, they would fight them off. If somebody came with opposing ideas, they would kill them. And now in this society that we have, every time we have a